Hey everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm James, that's Katie, and of course that makes this the 25th episode of Circles and Squares. We've made it, Kate. Is this, what is it, silver anniversary? Is that what they call 25? I don't know. Very exciting news.
Someone called it that, but yeah, holy shit, thanks for sticking with us for so long.
I know. We got a really fun one planned, I feel. This is an episode I think we've both been looking forward to for like probably 10 episodes or so, so it's been a long time.
Yes.
We are
Looking forward to, and also like stressing and pulling our hair out over.
Yeah, it's a hard exercise. So for those of you that don't know or you're joining us for the first time, we actually have a different show plan than our usual schedule today. We are going to be doing a two-part show. The start of the show, we're going to be talking about some PlayStation news that's happened. There's been, I feel, so much going on right now with the state of play going on, and then also the other news that's come out aside from that. So we're going to round up some of the news that wasn't in the state of play. And then for the second half of the show, we have decided, because it is the 25th episode, that it's time for us to create the definitive list of our top 25 games of all time. But the twist is that it's not each of our individual lists. We're going to be creating a combined list and debating about the placement of games, because obviously we have different tastes and all that good stuff. So it should be pretty fun, but we're going to talk about the news first. Before we get into any of that, though, I just want to say thank you again for listening through all these episodes we've managed to release so far. Of course, if you want to send in listener mail for next time, you can email us at circlesandsquarespod@gmail.com. Send us questions about anything, guys. We love to answer, and the ones we've had in so far, we like to take these topics and either answer them shortly at the end of the show, or sometimes we do like a whole section on some of the bigger topics also. So please send your questions in. You can find us at CNSPod on Twitter with all the links to all of our stuff there. But why don't we get into our first news story, Kate, which is, of course, the PS Plus games for March 2021. So again, if you're joining us for the first time, usually every month, Kate and I both pick one of the PS Plus offerings and play it for you guys and give our impressions. So this month, for March, we have Final Fantasy VII Remake, Farpoint, Maquette, and Remnant from the Ashes. And it's the second month in a row where we have some really, really, really strong picks here.
Yeah, absolutely. PS Plus has been just dominating this year. I can't believe like I was shocked that Final Fantasy made it in. Especially I guess like they're just putting out that DLC, so maybe it's kind of like encouraging people to pick up the game and then purchase that extra pack that they've got coming. But like still, that game is not that old, and like I imagine it's still selling really well.
I think so, yeah. And like you said, it's a great timing with that DLC coming out and everything. So I know, like, personally, I really enjoyed that game last year, and I can't wait to play the DLC. But I don't think I would pick it this time just because I played it before, right? But I don't
Yeah,
know
of course.
what you're feeling. It is a
I
longer one, so I don't know if
Yeah,
you'd pick it
I'm
to
I'm
get all the
kind
way
of
through.
I'm really yeah, I'm torn on this one because I mean Farpoint looks good, but obviously like I think it's the VR offering, so
It is, yeah.
that doesn't really apply for me, but the other 3 games are all genuinely games that like I've got on my list to play. Like Remnant looks really interesting, and I know there's a co-op aspect which is neat, and Final Fantasy, it's just such a big game, and it looks fantastic. And then also Maquette, is it Maquette, that's how you
I
pronounce
thought
it?
it was Maquette. I really don't
Maquette?
know, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but that
It's
game
double
looks
T, you know? The double T is like an et.
okay. Yeah, I'll give you that. But yeah, that game looks like really interesting, really creative. So I want to play all of them. My concern is, do I have the time I want to dedicate
That is the
to
question.
any of these one games? So Maquette applies. I don't know. This is worse than Concrete Jungle. I can't. I couldn't say
It's
that one either.
impossible. It's impossible.
But that one appeals to me the most because I know, like, okay, I could sit down maybe in a couple afternoons and crank it out.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's my go-to pick, I think. But also, like, Remnant really,
Yeah, yeah.
really stands out as like, oh, give myself the push. Maybe I finish Sekiro. Spoilers for a future episode, and then I can watch a Remnant. So
That's true. I mean, those two are the two I'm going for. Also, obviously, PSVR is
mhm.
out of the picture, and I've already talked about Final Fantasy on the show quite a bit. So, I'm just gonna take whichever of those you don't pick, basically.
Okay.
And I'm happy
Well,
with either one because, like you said, they both look good.
I think I'll take Remnant, but with the little asterisk on the end that I might also play if I have time.
It's even
That
better.
lovely,
It's even
that
better.
lovely puzzle game, which shall not be named, but you know what I'm talking about.
The one with the M. There you go. All right.
Yeah.
Well, those are our picks for PS Plus. We'll get back to you guys next episode. on our thoughts on those games. But for now, we'll move to our next news story, which is that it's confirmed that there's going to be a PSVR2, which is really exciting. We didn't actually really have confirmation of this up until a few days ago when they kind of came out and said, yes, they are working on a new PSVR system. So that's pretty exciting for me. I've not really dabbled into PSVR too much, and I'm kind of at the point now where it's like, to play the PSVR on the PS5, you need that special dongle to make it hook up, and it's been out for long enough now that it's like, is it really worth investing this late? And I'm kind of just in the mood to wait for the next thing at this point. So it's nice to know it's going to be coming and like purposely made for the PS5. Unfortunately, I think it still is going to have a wire, so it's not going to be a full wireless headset, which is what I'd really be looking for, I think. But just knowing that they're still dedicating and trying to make some good games and push the VR technology is really positive, and I'm optimistic that I'll actually maybe get a PSVR 2.
Yeah, I think it's really neat. Like I probably won't. I find it unlikely that I will purchase one just because I don't own any VR setup, but I have access to, like, in my group we've got someone who owns one of the Oculus, so I've played a bit of that recently, and it's kind of like filled that itch for VR. And while I really enjoy it and there's some standout phenomenal games, I think it's something that still to me is a little bit like, not, I don't want to use the word gimmicky, but like
It's
it's
niche.
a thing. Yeah, niche is the better word. It's niche and it's something I want to play all the time, and it's just every now and again let's crack out VR and play some Beat Saber. So I enjoy that, and I think there's definitely been some really neat PlayStation VR titles that would have been nice to have been able to play on Oculus, which we don't have access to. But I think like I think like that's covered enough of what VR interests me that I don't necessarily like see myself picking up another version of it in the future. But I think that this looks really interesting, and I want to see kind of how it goes, especially with how they've kind of talked about some of the controller integration.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Talking about that, there was also a patent filed about the controller, which, I mean, we know, we've talked before. These patents don't usually turn into too much, but the patent was saying it's somehow this technology that you can turn any object, or maybe not any object, but you can turn objects around your house into the controllers for this thing. And they're using this example of a banana and like all these, I don't know, like it just seems really weird. I don't know if I'd want to play my games on a banana and like squishing my fingers in as it gets more intense, like in this mushy banana.
Yeah.
Like I just have these horrible envisionments
Well,
of how
I mean,
that would go.
it
But
starts out great the first day, but by the time you're like, a couple days in, you're halfway through the game and your banana's getting a little bit like
well, that's the thing. You need a new
getting a little
banana every
brown.
day. Like it's gonna be
You
bruised within a
would.
few hours of
You
playing.
you would. Your produce bill would just skyrocket.
Well, the thing is though, you could actually just eat the banana. Like, you know what I mean? You could like
That's
multi-function them. You can
right.
still eat them, but yeah, I don't say it's a weird patent. I don't think it's really gonna
You know
come to much.
what's funny about this though to me is there's a thing, and I don't know if you've seen it, but it's kind of like a trend with like maybe like certain like more difficult games of like people playing them on ridiculous controllers. There was like a video that went around of a guy and he'd like turned a banana into a controller and he like beat Dark Souls on a banana.
What the hell?
Like that's a real thing someone did. And then with Hades, someone like beat it like on a pomegranate.
Oh, I did see that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's the first thing that this made me think of, and I was like, I wonder if like the banana was actually like, like a reference to that, or if it's just, that's just a common thing people have in their house and it's
Yeah,
easy to draw maybe. But
I wonder if it's just Sony being saying like seeing some of these videos and just being like, you know what, we're like so rich we can afford to put out some weird patents, and just in case this like weird trend blows up to the point where we might actually want to get involved, we should just patent this now and then forget about it.
yeah.
Just for that 1% chance where we don't want to get left behind on a big trend, even though it sounds stupid to say that, because like why would that become popular? But the internet is a weird place these days. People are stuck at home, people are going crazy. You never know what might happen with these bananas.
Yeah, exactly. This is like a ridiculous like go viral thing, but I think it's neat. And I think the other thing too is like, obviously this is an interesting spot of news, but just thinking like the actual DualSense itself will be really cool for VR because of all the like tactical feedback that you've got. So it's just another like level of like potential immersion to go into a
Yeah,
game. So I actually think the VR, like the controller of having the DualSense be integrated with VR actually like is one of the kind of like selling points for me for a PSVR. I think that would be really cool.
yeah, it would, especially. I would imagine they would have some kind of special controller for the VR, also like the one single handed two controller setup thing. But I think a similar setup to that, but with some of the DualSense technology and those new controllers
Mhm.
would be really cool, like you said. And then obviously the DualSense itself as well. Yeah, that's true. I mean, for me, it's PSVR2. I'm interested in it. I guess to summarize, but like you said, it depends on the software, right? I'm gonna need to see some bigger games come to pull my attention, because as cool as Beat Saber is and as cool as like Iron Man VR would be, and Farpoint games like this on PS Plus, like I really would like, to get to the point where I have a new spin-off of Final Fantasy VII Remake coming to PSVR, for example. Something like that, like give me some A-tier franchises on there with some they don't have to be necessarily long games, but just like really cool, even 3-4 hour experiences that you can have in a different way than just sitting in front of your TV, like with this headset. I think that would be really, really cool. Especially since Sony
Mhm.
has so many amazing games, right? Like it would be cool to translate some of those over to the VR. We'll have to wait and see, though, I guess. Let's move along to more PlayStation games coming to another platform, though, Kate. We have a story. They're moving more PlayStation games to the PC. We saw, what was it last year? Horizon Zero Dawn, right? And then, the delivery game with all the
Mhm.
boxes
Horizon.
and whatever that one's called. I forget. Um,
The latter game,
the latter
Death
game,
Stranding.
Death Stranding, the balancing
Yeah,
ladder walking game.
Mailman
Yeah,
Sim.
Mailman. So those were the two
Mhm.
on the PC. PlayStation has announced a couple days ago that Days Gone is also coming to PC. Um, I think that makes sense as a choice. Honestly, it's kind of one of those exclusives that is a good game, but kind of gets overshadowed by some of the more heavy hitters. So it seems like a logical one maybe to put on there, get people interested and say
Yeah,
like,
I
wow, I
agree.
really enjoyed this game. How good are the people are saying like these other ones are actually better than this? Maybe I should buy a PlayStation. Come in that way, but
And I think too we spoke about our predictions for the year. You said, you'd mentioned games going to PC, and you mentioned Bloodborne, bless your heart. But, one of the reasons that you'd pick that game over something, I think your initial pick, you'd considered God of War, but you thought that, like, that's too quintessential to PlayStation's brand. Like, Kratos as a character is, like, reaching, like, mascot status almost.
exactly, yeah.
So Days Gone kind of works well in that sense where like it wasn't exclusive, but it's not really like tied to the identity of PlayStation. It was just sort of like a new IP, like a one-off game, and so like translating that into another platform kind of works because it's like, expanding the audience. It's great, more people are gonna have access to it, but it's also like it's not really something that you specifically tie to PlayStation. So I think it's you don't lose that sort of exclusivity sort of feeling that
Yeah,
PlayStation's trying to cultivate.
I agree, and also I think it actually might be a good way for Days Gone to succeed also, because on the PlayStation it's up against all those other games, whereas on PC, like yeah, sure, there's some really good games on PC also, but it's almost like a lot of Sony's kind of these third person actions type of stuff has a lot of similarities. So maybe there's actually less competition in that space on the PC instead of being compared to like Sony's whole first party library on on the PS5 and PS4. I don't know if that's even true. That's just me kind of spitballing, but either way, hope it succeeds. People can get into these
Yeah.
PlayStation games in different ways. That's awesome. We have two more stories, Kate. We got a lot of news today. Jeez. So
Mhm.
the Japan studio, bless their hearts, they make Astrobot, of course. They're reshuffling their resources, I guess you could say. It seems like they're basically shutting down all the wings of the studio aside from Team Asobi, which is the Astrobot team. And I don't think they're actually laying off any employees, which is good. It's more so that they're just reassigning them to different roles within Sony PlayStation Studios globally. So I think that's pretty interesting news. Kind of double edged though, right? It's always sad to see a studio close, especially one that's been around for as long as Japan Studio. But at the same time, they don't really make a lot of original games. They're more like that studio that kind of supports other ones. Like they're in on Bloodborne, but they're not the main developer, and they're in
Yeah, I
on.
think they kind of like publish a lot of stuff. Because
Mhm.
Bloodborne was the first thing my mind went to when I thought of Japan Studio. But yeah, I mean, obviously, From makes that game, and Japan Studio just publishes it. So, um, yeah, I guess in that sense, it's just a redistribution. It might not really change too much of actual products, but they definitely make games. And like Astro is I'm glad that that studio is still like able to work on something because we'd said like after how much we love the little playroom that came with PS5, it'd be nice to have a full title
Do you think this is
or
indication we're gonna
another
get
full
that?
title. I don't know. I think they're definitely working on something, right? Otherwise, why would they not have been redistributed? I wonder if maybe it's a title to come with PS5. VR.
That's what I was thinking.
Because
PSVR2, like a full
yeah.
Astrobot Playroom 2 on PSVR2. It kind of lines up with that announcement.
Hmm.
Probably would take, a little bit of time to make that. Might line up nicely, or ultimately, I think the better solution would even be like a full Astro's Playroom type thing on the PS5, just similar to like any 3D Mario. Like that would be awesome. I would hope for that one day, and I feel like this is indication we might get that. Even if it's like not the next game coming from Asobi, like if the next one continues to be a success, I think by that time they'll be forced to give us that kind of full experience.
They'll be forced to. We won't leave until you do it.
No, but I mean, it's getting more popular every time, right? Like people really like Astrobot. Like we love Astrobot. We've only played one game, really, with this character, and he's kind of won us over like that. So I'm sure a lot of people are in that boat, and I think it's only good news for Astrobot specifically. The
Yeah,
restructure.
absolutely. I think Astro's an absolute joy, and I would love to see like a Mario Odyssey kind of style game with him. But yeah, we'll have to wait and
Wait and
see.
see.
I think VR is the safe call for it for sure.
Well, our last story is also a very heartwarming. Well, I shouldn't say also that Japan Studio one's like mixed feelings, but to end on a very positive story, Ghost of Tsushima developers have been made permanent ambassadors of the real life Tsushima Island, Kate. And this is like, I think you found this morning, and it's the game director Nate Fox, creative director Jason Connell, are permanent tourism ambassadors now for the city of Tsushima in Nagasaki. Nagasaki, I don't know how to say that. Either way, this is like mega cool news. I can't believe that an actual, like a video game and the people making a video game have been recognized by a country that their game was like this cool and significant to give them this kind of honorary title. Like that's awesome. Good for you guys.
Yeah, it's so heartwarming. Like it's such a wholesome story, and like it makes me so happy. Like I think it's really nice to acknowledge that like these things, like games and even like media, movies, books, whatever, they really become kind of part of like a cultural identity. And they're a big part of people's lives and they're very influential. And I imagine like, me, I'm including myself in this. Like Japan's been somewhere that's been high on my travel list just to begin with. But like after having played Tsushima, like it's somewhere I would want to add on because I just loved experiencing the environment and the world in the game. And like it'd be really cool to go and see like kind of what the inspiration was. So I think that's awesome. Like I imagine that it was, good for their tourism. And the other thing too is I don't know if you remember, but back in January, um, fans of the game helped raise money to rebuild a shrine on the island. Yeah, they're a big part of the game, so they kind of like crowdfunded it and they rebuilt the shrine that had collapsed. I think it was from like a typhoon or some kind of natural cause, and so they raised enough money and they did it. So that was sort of tied to the game as well. So I wonder if like maybe that helped encourage them becoming ambassadors. Like they'd already physically done something as well to like help restore the
Mm-hmm.
shrine. But I
Mm-hmm.
just think overall, like it's just I love this story. It's so heartwarming. And can you imagine being one of the devs and like actually receiving that kind of status
I know.
based on your work? Like,
I don't even think that would be something that's so out of your realm. Is like you never go into the job as a video game developer expecting any type of like significant award like this, or like not even an award. It's like an accomplishment. You would never go into your career assuming something like that would happen. And I don't know. I think it just speaks to the passion of the team. Like obviously, Tsushima itself has recognized this game as being like quite accurate to what the island is
mhm,
like and like the history of it. Like it's got to be right, because they wouldn't recognize some kind of knockoff or cheapening of their history. I wouldn't imagine. So
mhm,
it's cool that they're kind of recognizing it, and I feel like Sucker Punch is really like made a name for themselves in a different way with all the Tsushima stuff, with the success of the game and Legends being so good, and now this like feel good story with this ambassador. I like they're really on the up, like as far as like the uh, their ranking as far as like best studios going forward. I feel Sucker Punch is like really on the rise.
mhm.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
I completely agree. I think I'm all on board. I can't wait to see what they do next. I have a feeling they might show their face a little bit in our upcoming section.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be back. Get ready, everyone, for the top 25 games of all time. We'll see you in a bit. All right, everyone, welcome back to the second half of today's show, where, yes, we are going to make our top 25 combined game list of all time. Just a disclaimer, I think we just set out a couple of rules of how we did this, just so everyone understands exactly what's going on. So, yeah, Kate, both of us have prepared a list of our personal top 25 favorite games of all time. It was incredibly difficult and painstaking to do this. I feel like my list the order could be changed of things. I could add in some other games that didn't quite make the cut. All that kind of stuff. So we're gonna both, I guess, read our lists out and then kind of find whatever similarities we can, and then piece together a list of a combined list of games that we both love and feel comfortable with the rankings of. I guess, is there anything I missed there?
No, I think that's good. I think the one other stipulation that we went over, which was restricting in a certain way, was that we couldn't put like a collection of games in one spot. So like if game was like a trilogy, you couldn't put the trilogy. You had to put a game individually. So that kind of like cut my hopes and dreams a little bit for certain games that
Yeah, I know. I was
that
just
were
thinking
more
about
like
that. It
sequential.
seems cheap then, right? Because if you really like,
Yeah.
say, Mario 64, you can't just put, oh, the Mario 3D All Stars collection, because it just happens to have that game, and you also get 2 bonus games with it. Like, you like
Yeah,
Mario
exactly.
64, right?
I think for the purity of the list, that was the correct thing to do, but it just 25 was already felt so limiting that having to kind of like work around that made it was so tough. And like I had so much fun making my list, but I feel like every day I went back and like switched something around. So like this is my list as of like what is it, March 6th today that we're recording. So like my list might be slightly different tomorrow.
I know. I feel the same way. So, without further ado, Kate, I will read you my list, and then
Okay.
I would like to hear yours afterwards, okay? And we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay, so first of all, honorable mentions that didn't quite make the cut for me. These are games that probably would make the cut if I wake up tomorrow, like you said, and change my mind. But right now, my honorable mentions didn't quite make it. I would like to shout out Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. Really like that
Mhm.
game. The control scheme just is something very unique to games, and
Mhm.
tells the story really cool. Must play in my opinion, but didn't quite make it. Portal is an amazing experience, but can't have
Mhm.
everything in the top 25. Same with Smash Ultimate. I think it might even be higher. I just haven't played it a lot because of the quarantine and the online sucks, so I just don't have a lot of people to play
Mhm.
with. But I also put Contra on my list. It's kind of my classic pick as my retro game that I love the most, I guess. And then finally,
Mhm.
Rocket League did not make the cut for me, which is a bit surprising, honestly. But there's just a couple other multiplayer things that I picked over it, and at the end of the day, most of my games are single player stuff. So all right, yeah. So those were my honorable mentions. But let me read you my list now. These are, again, I'm going to read from 25 down up to 1. Save the best for last, I guess. But again, keep in mind they're not really in a perfect order. So this is by no means like a
Mhm.
binding order. So number 25, I have Stardew Valley. 24,
Mhm.
Apex Legends. Number
Okay.
23, Red Dead Redemption.
Mhm.
Number 22, Ghost of Tsushima. Number 21, Ratchet and Clank Going Commando. 20, Spider-Man Miles Morales. 19, Final Fantasy X. 18, Slay the Spire. 17,
Mhm.
Mario
Mhm.
Kart 8 Deluxe. 16, Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth.
That's a
Number
good one.
15, Persona 4 Golden. Uh, 14, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. 13,
Mhm.
Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. 12, Bloodborne. 11, Phoenix Wright Trials and Tribulations. Number 10, Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair. Number 9, Fire Emblem Awakening. Number 8, Mass Effect 2. Number 7, Heavy Rain. Number 6, Pokemon Heart Gold. Number 5, The Last of Us. Number 4, Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 1. Number 3, Paper Mario on the N64. Number 2, God of War 2018. And number 1, obviously, Persona 5 The Royal.
That was so fun. I had it previously kind of like in my mind guessed on some of your games, and I was right in some ways, wrong in other ways, and the orders kind of slipped away on me. But that was
Mm.
such a fun list. I really like it, and I feel like we have an interesting amount of overlap.
Good. Okay. Well,
Um,
let's hear it. Let's see.
okay, so here's mine, and again, I'll do it the same way, same asterisk on the end, like subject to change potentially. But my honorable mentions, I'm giving it to the Danganronpa
Mm-hmm.
series.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't quite make the list, but I love the games. Um, but I felt like part of what was elevating it to me was that I'm playing it with a friend,
Right.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm enjoying it very socially.
Yeah.
So that one's on there. Amnesia: The Dark Descent. To this day, I think the best horror game I've ever played. The Fire Emblem series is an honorable mention here.
Really, I'm
Um,
surprised about the series in general. Why is an honorable
yes,
mention? Wow,
it's an honorable mention, specifically FE6.
that's
But there we
shocking.
go. My last honorable mention is Into the Breach. I think that is an
Oh, good
amazing,
shout, good shout. That's on my honorable mention for me too.
yeah, it's an amazing, amazing game. So, 25 up, I've got in my final spot is Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion.
Oh God.
24 I know, you're not gonna like that one. 24 Guitar Hero World Tour.
You know what? That almost made my list too. It's like I have a top 50 list personally, and it's like in the 30s. So I'm with you.
Yeah, it's I mean, yeah, we'll get into these. I'll
Yeah.
run through it quickly. I feel like I have so much to say about each game, but we'll just give you the list in its purity first. So, 23 Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, 22 Heavy Rain, 21 Atlas Reactor, 20 Papers, Please, 19 Pokemon Red, 18 Red Dead Redemption 2, 17 Phoenix Wright Trials and Tribulations.
Hell yeah,
Uh,
Trials and Tribulations.
I like that we both picked exactly that one. 16 Bioshock, 15 Final Fantasy Advanced Tactics, 14 is Smash Ultimate, 13 Journey, 12 God of War 2018, 11 Ghosts of Tsushima, and then we're into the top 10 here. 10 is Undertale. Number 9 is your honorable mention of Portal.
Nice.
8 Hollow Knight. 7 Hades. 6 is Persona 5. I really wanted that to be spot 5, but I just couldn't quite make it work. Number 5 is Dark Souls. Number 4 is the Banner Saga 2. Number 3 might be a surprising one. It's Bloodborne.
I'm surprised it's not. Well, you know what? I'm not surprised it's higher because I can imagine what the first two are going to be.
Well, number 2 is Divinity Original Sin 2. And number 1, potentially slightly influenced because I'm in the middle of it right now, but number 1 is Sekiro.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. Um. First of all, I would like to say that I forgot about Hades, so it would have probably made my
Would you
top
like
25.
to slot that in somewhere?
It's you know what? It's okay. We got enough to worry about. So
That's fine. And with our combined list, maybe it works out in your favor. You got to slot something else in, but still get
that's
to
right.
put
It might
Hades
it might
somewhere
actually
high
be
up
good
on
for me.
the final list.
That's
So
true. So let's get to combining these then. All right. So the way that I see it, we have 8 combined games here, which both of us have on our list. And I think those ones should be locks to make our combined list, right? So those are Persona 5 Roll,
mhm.
God of War 2018, Phoenix Wright, Trials and Tribulations, Bloodborne, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, Tsushima, Heavy Rain, and Hades. Even though I forgot it, is still on my list. So
it's like that meme. It's like I feel like I've forgotten something. Like,
damn.
well, it was really important. You wouldn't have forgotten. And there's like Hades standing out in the
Yeah,
rain.
that's totally. It's because I keep a list of all the games I beat, right? And then Hades I haven't really technically beaten yet because I've only done like 5 completions, so it's not on there yet. And so when I was looking through my list, I passed over it. But
Right.
because one of our 8 blue games is technically one of your picks. I'll let you nominate one of your games first. So we have 8 spots taken
Okay.
up. We got to get down to 25. I think we'll just take turns, maybe picking the games we want from our list to
Right.
make the cut. So you go
Okay.
ahead.
Well, we got to start at the top, obviously. So it's gonna be Sekiro.
Yeah.
I have to have it there. I will be majorly depressed if it doesn't make the list.
Oh God. Okay, it's on there. Don't worry.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna go with. I'll do the same as you. I'll put Persona 5, the Royal,
You've already
right
got
underneath
it.
there. Oh, it's already on there. Jesus,
You
I'm so.
fool.
I'm getting confused here. I'm already stressing out, Kate. This is too hard. Um,
You're crumbling.
okay, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna put Pokemon Heart Gold.
Okay, that's fine. I'm happy with Heart Gold on there, and I will concede my Pokemon Red.
Mm-hmm.
I actually did toy with the idea of doing Gen 2 for Pokemon, but I just went with the like quintessent, like the classic, my first ever Pokemon game.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's totally fine. I'm gonna slide in Divinity.
Yeah,
I know you haven't
Divinity.
played it, but
That's fine.
it's a
That's fine.
goddamn masterpiece.
That's the thing. It doesn't have to be played. I will go. Oh man. I'm just gonna get The Last of Us on there.
Yeah, that's
Needs
fair.
to be.
That's one that probably would have been on my list, had I just played a little bit more. I'm partway through it right now and I'm really enjoying it, but like I just didn't feel like I could put it on with like the amount that I'd played.
Yeah, fair, fair.
I feel like I'm interested to see like how this list changes over time because I feel like there's so many games where like I know for a fact they're gonna be on it, but I just haven't gotten around to playing them
Yeah,
yet.
I'm
So,
so with you on that. Yeah.
okay, my one. I'm just pulling from the top here. I gotta put Banner Saga.
Okay.
And so that was the game that the trilogy rule screwed me over because
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah.
an absolute masterpiece, like 1, 2, 3, and they're meant to be played like back to back. That all your choices in the story carries through. But if I had to pick one, and I
Yeah.
think it was two.
That's fair. I'm gonna go with Mass Effect 2.
Okay, that one I'm telling you right now, I don't give a shit about Mass Effect.
That's fair. That's fair enough.
um, okay, I'm gonna shoot back. I think it's got to be Dark Souls. I
Okay, that's
know
fair.
that like
I have no
that will
problem with
maybe
Dark Souls.
yeah, that will maybe my FromSoft is done now. I don't know if maybe someone has noticed, but Dark Souls 3 wasn't on here, and while I would have loved to have included it, I didn't think it was quite as hard hitting as the other games, and I just needed room for more things.
Well, the spots are so limited, right? And you also have to think that you have to argue their positioning on the list against me, who's not going to be very
Yes.
in favor of like Bloodborne and Dark Souls and Dark Souls 3 and Sekiro being at the top. Like there's no
Mhm.
way, right? So it's yeah. In the similar vein, I'm going to go for Slay the Spire off of my list because although it's lower down, it's one that you also really like. So I think that I could
Yeah.
get it higher.
Although my thing with that game is like I like it, but I also like it's like you know it's like drugs. Like I like it, but like ooh, I don't want to acknowledge it because like it just eats away your
It
life.
does, but it's damn good though.
It's dangerous. I feel like we're already like running out of space so much. Um, I want to put Portal on here. You put it in your honorable mentions,
Yeah.
so I think that has a good shot. And I think like it's such a unique game.
I agree. And that's the thing too. Like if we're doing a combined list, it's like something representative of both of us in a way, even though it wasn't on mine. So that's good. Oh god, this is getting tough now.
Hmm.
I got to put Apex Legends on here. I'm just like falling more and more in love with this game every time I play it at this point. Like it's got to be.
Okay, I respect that. I'm gonna throw on Hollow Knight. You have played a little bit of it, and
Mm-hmm. I liked it too. It's good.
you saw some of its beauty.
Only some. You've been saying I gotta get back to that, which I probably do.
Well, yeah. You were, like, right on the cusp of, like, getting more of the upgrades and, like,
Yeah.
really opening the game up, and I feel like you stopped at, like, the worst possible place to stop.
But the thing about it though is just because that's when my PS5 arrived. I had the Hollow Knight installed on
Yes.
my PS4, swapped out to the PS5, meant to re-download it, but I got caught up playing like Miles Morales
Yes.
and a bunch of other stuff, and I just didn't get
Yeah,
back. But
of course.
all right, it's getting down to it. I gotta put Telltale's The Walking Dead season 1. It's got
Okay.
to be on there, no debate.
Okay, that's something I wanna eventually get around to. Um, I'm gonna throw on Undertale.
Undertale, okay,
I have a lot to say about that game. We'll get to
gotcha.
it.
So just to update the listeners here, because they cannot see the list, we're working on a list in the background that you guys cannot see. But we have now picked 21 games, and we have 4 spots left, which means both of us have 2 more picks, and that's it.
Right.
To narrow down.
And then
So
obviously we're gonna have to order it because,
exactly, yeah.
it's not fun to
Well, that's
just
the fun
back and
part.
forth.
That's the fun part,
Um,
right? So
yeah.
so think
It's just these
wisely
gonna
here,
be the
Kate.
games that we're working through.
Yeah, think wisely. It's it's my pick first before you. I guess you got some time.
Yeah, you think quietly.
Yeah, I've already been thinking though. It's gonna be Paper Mario.
Okay,
It's
the
it's
first
another mutual pick, right? Like that would be
yeah,
probably on your list
that
if it was much
that is
longer.
one of my ones that I'm, like, selfishly glad you put it on because I didn't, but, like,
Yeah,
it was definitely one that I thought about. So I'm glad that you ate that for us. I feel like my heart wants me to put Papers, Please next, because I think that game is fuck it. Fuck it.
Papers,
Papers.
Please.
I've convinced myself. Papers, please.
All right, there, Paper Mario and Papers, Please, back to back. Perfect.
Papers.
And now for my last pick. Oh God. Okay, well I'm thinking Fire Emblem Awakening is up high on my list, but I don't know if I
Fire.
like it dramatically more than other Fire Emblems, though. Like, is it really what I want to be on this list? Then I look at
Right.
other games and it's like, well, Digimon Cyber Sleuth, great
I
RPG.
really enjoyed Cyber Sleuth as well, so I would
You
be
liked
happy
it,
with both of those picks. I
yeah,
like, yeah.
but then it gets
Both.
more interesting too. It's like, do I want to fight for the original Red Dead Redemption, which is a game that I really liked, and I know
I
you really liked it.
also really like that game.
Ooh, and then there's Mario Kart 8. where I'm the world champion, best player ever. Um, Man, I don't know. And then there's Paper Mario Thousand Year Door too, which I'm leaning against that one just because we already have the
We
N64
already have
game
a
on
Paper
there.
Mario Run. Yeah.
Damn. And then there's Danganronpa as well. But considering that we have Phoenix Wright on here already, I don't know if I want two kind of visual
Also, I fight you,
novelty.
but that number 2 is not the best
Yeah. Well, I know. I think it is. I'll debate you on that later.
I
On
know.
another episode, maybe we'll see.
And the friend I'm playing with also would potentially pick 2, but I don't.
Mhm.
I think 2 is not wouldn't be my pick.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna go with.
Except for Grape House. Love Grape House.
And then there's Stardew Valley sitting there at 25 on my list. I'm like, damn, I love Stardew Valley. I played like, so much of that.
That's
You know
the
what? I'm
hard
over.
part about this kind of thing. Like, it's so hard to quantify. Like, how do you compare something like Stardew Valley to something like The Last of Us, right? Like, they're just
Yeah,
so
exactly,
drastically different.
exactly. Um, you know, at this point, I'm gonna go Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Okay. And I'm interested that you picked that and not
Of the original.
the last Spider-Man game, the one before, because Miles Morales is kind of like a smaller package, so
It was,
that's
but I
interesting
think
to
like
me.
looking back and reflecting on them both, the smaller package was actually kind of nicer, and the
Right.
combat was more evolved. Like, I mean, there's. Well,
Okay.
I'll get into it when we talk about it.
Okay.
What's your last pick?
Um, my last pick is gonna be one for both of us. I think I'm gonna put Smash Ultimate on there.
Okay,
Um, it is the definitive Smash, but it also kind of like for our history of all the way back to N64.
that's
So I
true.
think
Okay,
Smash has been a big lifelong game.
true. Okay. So Kate, would you like the honor of reading out to everyone, just to keep everyone in the loop, the final 25 games that we are going to have to struggle to rank at this point?
Yes. Okay, so the 25 games that we will be ranking between are Persona 5 Royal, God of War 2018, Phoenix Wright Trials and Tribulations, Bloodborne, Final Fantasy Advance or Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, Ghost of Tsushima, Heavy Rain, Hades, Sekiro, Pokemon Heart Gold, Divinity Original Sin 2, The Last of Us, Banner Saga 2, Mass Effect 2, a lot of 2s on here.
A lot of twos.
Dark Souls, Slay the Spire, Portal, Apex Legends, Hollow Knight, Telltale's The Walking Dead first season, Undertale, Paper Mario, Papers, Please. Gotta say it like that. Spider-Man Miles Morales, and then last but potentially not least, Smash Bros. Ultimate. So I think what we're gonna do now, just to try to organize it and make this a little bit less chaotic, is we're gonna go through and kind of just pick out the couple games that we think collectively are like they're definitely gonna be in the top few
Yeah, because there's
positions. Like
some
there's
so obviously that we're gonna argue for, right? There's no sense like
yeah,
leaving certain ones on the list. Like, okay, I'll just go. I guess
exactly.
for mine, like Persona 5 the Royal, there's no way I'm not putting it like near the top. I'm just gonna move it
Yeah,
there now.
exactly. And I had Persona 5 in my top 10 as well, so I think that's
Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna put
a really
them.
safe
Yeah,
one.
yeah, that sounds good. So Persona, I think that you're gonna want Divinity, obviously, and
Absolutely,
Sekiro. There, I'll put
absolutely.
both of those at the top for
Yeah, Divinity
you.
and Sekiro I think are gonna be up there. I think God of War is probably gonna be really high because we both had that
Okay,
in really high contention
that's
on our
true.
list.
That's true.
And
Okay,
I think Tsushima is kind of in the same
I
position as
agree.
well.
I agree. And the only other one I'm gonna toss it there before we get too caught up in this is Hades. I think will actually
Okay.
be near the top as well.
Do you
Well, I don't
think
know. We'll leave that down. Maybe we shouldn't
do
get
you
too
think
antsy about
maybe
this. Let's calm down a little bit.
Bloodborne would make it too?
Well, Bloodborne's gonna depend on where the other Souls games get ranked, Kate. So I'm not prepared to put it
Right.
right at the top
Okay. But that
at the
is
moment.
your favorite one, right?
It is,
So
but relative to what else is coming up on the list, I don't know how I can justify.
true. Okay.
You know
Okay.
what I mean. We'll figure it out later.
We'll let that
We'll see.
simmer
Let
for
me.
now.
Yeah. All right. So I guess yeah, we'll stick with Persona 5 Royal, Divinity, Sekiro, God of War, and Tsushima at the top. Leave those out for later. Kate, we got to start at the bottom though. You know, like these are all games that we really,
Mhm.
really like. We love them, you know, but something's got to be at the bottom of this list. And I would personally like to invite you if you'd like to make a suggestion of what you'd like, and then we'll go from there. This is
Okay.
like my amends for again taking advantage of the fact that you put Hades on your list and I didn't. I'm just trying to really make that up to you.
Right, okay. Um, that's fair. I'm looking at these lists and, like, genuinely, like, I just wanna emphasize, like, how great all these games are, right? 25 is not a spot to scoff at, um, on this list. Like, there were
So you're
so many others that
talking up the spot 25, so you can put one of my games there now probably.
yeah, fuck Mass Effect.
Mass Effect. You're crazy if you think I'm putting Mass
You
Effect
know
2
what?
at 25.
No, I'm mostly joking. I have a lot of respect for the Mass Effect series. I'm not a big fan of it personally. It's mostly the setting that puts me off, and
Mhm,
when I
mhm.
went back to play the first game, it was quite dated at the time, and I think it's one of those ones that, I totally understand why people are into it, but, it
Hmm.
doesn't quite work for me. I think maybe at the bottom it's gotta be something like Slay the Spire, which is
Okay,
funny
well,
because it's a game
yeah.
that I really like as well, but I think part of what makes Slay the Spire so I feel like it's more of like an addicting game versus like a quality and substance thing, like and that's not to say it's bad, I think Slay the Spire is a fantastic game, I think it's, one of the best, like, deck building games out there in the genre, and I think, like, there's so many times I get an urge to play that style of a game, but I think that, like, it's just hard to compete with some of these other, like, really massive titles, and I think a lot of the time when I played Slay the Spire, it was because, like, I was watching TV and I wanted something to do, like, at the same time that I
Mm,
could just sort of, like, casually, like, have going, but not really have to, like, focus on too much. Whereas, like, a
yeah.
lot of these other games, it's like, I'd think about it all day and sit down and then, like, play all evening and, like, was just a little bit higher level of investment.
That's interesting though, because Slay the Spire to me, like I agree. I'm not gonna argue that it's gonna be super super high on the list, but because it's one of those things like I played like 50 hours over the span of 3 weeks or something, and then I haven't really picked it
Mhm.
up since. So I can't
Yeah.
say that it's like super super high on my list. But there's also something to be said for a game that can do that to you and make you
Yeah.
want to play that much.
I
And just the synergy of the cards and the way the game works, it's like so much different than those other more like PvP deck building things, especially the ones that you need to buy packs and updates and stuff. Like I really like the self-contained nature of Spire, but
yeah, and I agree, and that's the same way I played it too, and, like, you're right that it is, like, that is an accolade to, like, play so much in a given time, but I almost feel like I was more, like, weirdly addicted to it as opposed to, like, really, like,
right, right,
engrossed
right.
and invested in the game, so, like,
Mm,
it's the one on my list that I feel like I enjoyed so much when I played, but, like, don't really look back on quite
mm.
as fondly, I guess.
Okay,
I
well,
don't
I was
know,
gonna suggest.
maybe I'm just having trouble, like, accepting that I'm not responsible enough to play that game.
Okay, I see where you're coming from. I like the pick to be low. I
Mhm.
would argue that Papers, Please should actually be at the very bottom. Because this is a game I've played a lot too. Like I went through it a few times. Like I think that I'm pretty experienced with it, and I think that it's a very funny game. It's very quirky. It's very unique. There's nothing else really like it, and I love the management of like you're working this horrible job and you're barely making ends meet and your family's sick at home and you can't afford to pay for food and power and what are you going to do, it's really really interesting when you're playing it, but it's along exactly what you just said about Slay the Spire. Like after I beat it the couple like times I played it,
Mhm.
when it first came out, I kind of beat it, went through again, died, and I don't have any desire to go back and play Papers, Please again. Like it's kind of a little bit one note in that way. Like Slay the Spire, you can build different decks and get a lot more out of it. Papers, Please, I think is a little bit more. It's a short, really, really interesting experience, and I would recommend anyone go play it. But I don't know if I necessarily have this burning passion to advocate for it that much either.
I guess so. I think what puts it higher for me is, like, it left more of a lasting impression on
Mm,
me, like, I agree I wouldn't necessarily go back and play it again, but it's something that, like, I feel like gave me such a unique experience and made me look at games a little bit differently,
hmm hmm
and it had more of, like, a heart and a soul than a lot of games that are like, "Oh, that was really fun," like, the controls felt great, like, technically it was really good, like, it was a great action game, but then it's like, like, it doesn't stick with you, whereas Papers, Please was like, "Wow, that was really emotional," and, like, it made
mm,
me really, like,
yeah.
contemplate things, and so, like, I think, like, I put it there kind of and it sort of, to me, is representing a lot of other games like Journey, in those kind of like experience style games.
Mhm.
So
You know what?
I don't know, I kind of
I
advocate for it a little more.
we're low down on the list, Kate. I'm not feeling
Yeah.
too impassioned yet. I've got to save my arguments and my brownie points for some other stuff on this list, which I know I'm
Mhm.
going to have to fight hard as hell to get higher than they should be. So I'll agree. Slay the Spire in 25. If are you cool with Papers, Please at 24?
I mean, let before
Or
we
I would like, if you're gonna put my Slay the Spire at the bottom, I think that you need to sacrifice something here,
oh
to
man, the
make me to
cost,
make me completely okay. Because to me, like Papers, Please is quite a clear
right.
straggler in this on this
Like,
list.
"Oh, I've won, but at what cost?"
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, like that's what I would say, like
yeah.
personally, right?
Well, I think, like, let's just right now, instead of having to lock in specifically, let's just
Yeah,
put, like, the like, let's
we
put them,
can.
like, they're gonna be at the
Yeah,
bottom, right?
this is
Like,
hypothetical. As nothing's locked in yet, we can move anything
yeah,
around at any time. Slay the
yeah,
Spire could
we'll
end
say
up at number two later
let's
on. Who
put
knows?
those kind of low. Well, who knows?
I
We'll
would
put those
never
kind of
want that.
low.
No.
Let's agree that Papers, Please, So is Spire gonna be kinda down at the
Okay,
bottom.
sure. And
Um, I would
anything else
also
you think could
say
be
that
really low? Maybe let's just toss a few names out
I would
there
say
and.
maybe Apex is a little bit
Hmm.
low,
Hmm.
just because it was 24 on your list, so I think you already put it quite low,
I agree. Yeah,
and it didn't make my list,
I
so
agree. And a lot of what I like about Apex is, I mean, the game is phenomenal. I think it's probably my favorite controlling shooter of I've ever played. Like, I just plays like a dream. I love the character abilities. They
mhm,
have amazing world building, like the lore of the world and the kind of the similar to Overwatch with their lore videos and kind of backstories. Apex has all that kind of stuff as well, and just the synergy of
mhm,
the abilities and everything about the game, and let alone the fact that it's let me hang out with my friends over the
mhm,
pandemic is maybe not a indicator of like how good the game is, but yeah, I mean I'm happy putting it lower for that reason too.
yeah,
I've got other things to fight for, like I said. So I'm happy
yeah,
with Apex at lower down. Maybe I'll slot it in at 23 if you want.
yeah,
Um,
and then we
I think I'm
can
okay with that. I would like to have a difficult conversation with you though.
okay,
We might be getting a bit ahead of ourselves. I'm not suggesting this has to be at 22, but
uh-huh.
I think there has to be a Souls game in the bottom, near the bottom here. And I'll tell
Yeah.
you why, Kate. Because if you're gonna get Sekiro like in that locked in kind of tier at the top,
Yeah,
you already have
I have
Bloodborne
to
on here as
consider
well, which I'm gonna be pretty generous with. I love Bloodborne. People know that.
mhm.
But I don't know if I can justify having three FromSoft games anywhere near the top of the list. Like considering how
Can
many things I love.
Can I
Um,
make a compromise and say if
yeah,
we're gonna put one lower, it's Hollow Knight?
that's not a
Souls
Souls game.
it's a Souls, it's emulating Souls game. It's in
No,
that
yeah,
same
but that's
genre,
different.
right? Like, it's in the same genre, and I would say that, like, as much as I love Hollow Knight, it is I would put it underneath, um, something like Bloodborne or Dark Souls. Like, it's just a little bit, like, of a smaller experience, and it is maybe more of, like, a slightly artistic rendition of that kind of a game, and it is fantastic, but it just doesn't quite
Okay, okay.
elevate itself in
Hmm.
the same way that a Souls game does for me.
What are you willing to do for me to make me agree to that? Because honestly, like that's a tough sell, man. That's really tough to put
Well,
like three of these
I
kind of
think
games.
let's put it this way, it's like, sure, they all come from the same developer, right? Like, I have 3
Yeah.
games from Soft Studios on here, but if you think about it, it's like, you could argue that, like, they're like, Hollow Knight is the same, it's in the same genre, right? It's an exploration,
Oh,
boss
I totally
focused
disagree though. It's
combat
totally
game.
different.
I mean, but it's like, it's very similar, right? Like, you can get a lot of things, like, I could have put, like, Neo on here and, like, Lords of the Fallen
Yeah,
and,
but
like,
those are
Soul
third person
Sanctuary. There's a
action
lot
games
of
though.
different things, and I think Hollow Knight is kind of like a
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
bite-sized version of those kind of games.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Put it this way, I'm gonna be arguing for them regardless, and Hollow Knight's the one I'm gonna argue for the least. So it makes
Okay.
sense if I'm putting
Well,
one lower, it would be that one.
true, true. Okay, you know what? I like I said, I don't expect them to be like the bottom tier, but
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I would put Apex Legends above probably definitely like Sekiro. Like to be frank with you, Sekiro would be not even close to 25 for me. Like it's going to be it's a miracle if you get that thing anywhere near top 5. Like
Yeah. I
based on you.
understand.
So yeah, I
I
mean,
understand. I
mm,
gotta fight for it. I
yeah,
understand
yeah.
completely, but it's just
Okay, okay.
I
You know
couldn't
what?
feel
Sure.
comfortable in my own skin if I didn't,
Fair.
advocate for it.
Okay. You know what? I will agree to put Hollow Knight at 22.
Okay.
It's funny if you were. I actually might have put Hollow Knight a bit higher
A bit
than
higher.
some other stuff. Like I would advocate Banner Saga should be down here. I don't
Whew.
think Banner Saga is really that good, to be honest. Like, okay,
Oh.
that's harsh. That's harsh. That's harsh. I take it back.
That's
It's a good
harsh.
game. It's a good game. But honestly, like Banner Saga,
Oh,
the
I
game
like
does
it.
not
See
look
it
pretty. I personally don't
that
like
that's
it.
that's a
Art.
subjective thing. I
It's
actually
subjective.
think
I agree.
it's really pretty.
It's true. But the thing is, like these games are all like amazing
They're
games, and
top
we
tier,
have to get nitpicky
absolutely.
with these things because they're all great. Like I joke about
Mhm.
Sekiro, but honestly, like even though it's not my thing, like it's a very well made game. I'm not saying it's bad by any means. It's just the rankings. So yeah, it's tough to put in order. But Hollow Knight. Yeah, do you want Hollow Knight at 22 then, or like what else would you want to put there?
Um, I don't know. I'm just thinking like we'll just kind of like
Mhm.
segment them. Like this is like a top.
Yeah,
This is kind of near the bottom. These are sort of in the middle,
exactly.
and then
Oh,
we'll
the
go
order is
through it
not
and
set for
hammer it
sure,
out.
but
So
yeah,
yeah, we'll put Hollow Knight kind
I'll
of
put it there for
down
now.
a little bit lower. There's two of each down
Okay.
there.
Yeah, is there any of the blue games you feel might belong down in the bottom 5? Because I would personally like to propose something to you because we both have 2 in the
Okay.
bottom 5 right now. So it'd be nice to get a shared one in there just so we're not getting unbalanced or anything. Not that it has to be perfectly balanced, but I would like to propose the Final Fantasy Tactics Advance goes down at 21 for
Yeah,
now.
I think that's fair. That to me is one of the games that like I still think it's a great game and still good to go back and play, but part of it is a nostalgia thing.
Totally, yeah. And it
For
moves
for
it moves
me.
a bit slow, like there's been I mean, after playing Project Triangle Strategy, you kind of go back to Tactics Advance and you can kind of see the age. And it is
Yeah,
a lot of nostalgia. I think it's important that it's on our list because we both love this game so much and spent so many hours playing it. And we spoke about it before on one of our first episodes and just really went into it. But it's a great game, I think. But it's almost in the territory of an honorable mention. You
yeah,
know?
I agree. I think it's there, and I think that it is something that in a couple years, if we ever remake this list, that might get replaced with Project
Yeah.
Triangle.
Yes. Yeah. Mhm.
I'm gonna say in a similar vein, and I know this is one of the ones that was on your list, but I think I almost consider it like a shared game because I had it in a
Sure.
similar way is
Yep.
Pokemon kind of goes in
Mm,
that sort of maybe not like in the lowest 5, but like a low mid because it's
yeah.
also
Yeah.
kind of like a nostalgia thing, like, like, are either of us ever gonna go back and play Heart Gold again? Like,
Well, I
maybe in
would.
5, 10 years when we have that itch, right? And you just kinda
Yeah.
wanna
Yeah.
be in the Pokemon universe, but, like, it's not
Yeah.
gonna be
I
one of our
got you.
top things. It is partially a nostalgia thing.
See, I would argue that actually next, like I don't know, like I don't know when we want to reorder these, but if we're just kind of
Or
placing
Paper
them in
Mario
here
as
for
well,
now.
but I was gonna say, anyways, I think I don't do nostalgia quite as much.
hmm I don't think I do nostalgia much either though. Like the older games I have on this list are things I actually would go play today. Like I have
Yeah.
played them recently enough to like not only be looking
Mhm.
at nostalgia. Like Heart Gold like is legitimately a great game in my opinion.
Yeah.
Unlike some of the more recent Pokemon entries. Um,
We've gone
m-
into that.
yeah, my go check out our Pokemon episode. Special guest Mike on there with us. But I was gonna propose to you, Kate, kind of this area would be maybe Smash Bros. Ultimate. Um, if only because we were kind of talking before actually off mic and just kind of saying how it's not necessarily that we loved Smash Ultimate, it's just the most recent Smash Bros. Game. Like if before we do this next list, for some reason Nintendo released Smash Bros. Ultimate 2, Smash Bros. Ultimate would instantly be off this list because we just go with the most recent iteration of it. It's not like intrinsically the best. So I don't know if it's really appropriate to rank it very high.
Yeah, that's fair. And also too, like Smash is kind of one of those like, it's like a social game as well. And I think Smash is incredible, but you're right, it is kind of like
hmm
it's the franchise itself. And Ultimate's a good example of like the definitive version of a game series because like, it's Ultimate, everyone's here. Um but yeah, it is kind of more just like Smash in general is something that we've
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
for so long, and I think this one's cool too, right? And it's like, it's got all the characters, it's got like all this like representation. It's almost like a piece of video game history in a way. So
Yeah, I think it's a good pick for there, and it's a similar reason to why I didn't put Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on my actual games for this list. Right, I put it on my 25, but I didn't, lower it down to that, because it's not Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that I like. It's just the newest Mario Kart. Mario Kart 9 comes out, I will never play Deluxe again. So
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
I think that's fair. And I think another one, to suggest one more that that might be a bit lower, and stick with me on it because it's maybe a bit controversial. I would maybe motion to put Phoenix Wright down here. If only because, as much as I love Trials and Tribulations, and we both put the same one, and that's amazing because there's so many different choices, and like we're awesome for picking that. But at the same time, Phoenix Wright, it is the series as a whole that's the amazing, that's kind of like the thing we're advocating for here, not just specifically Trials and Tribulations. It was just the one that I picked to represent the series, so it's not like I'm really as strong on that as some other stuff.
I'm comfortable. Like, it was kind of in that area on my list as well, and I think, like, 3 is great. It sort of wrapped everything up nicely and, just iterated that little bit on the mechanics, and I'm comfortable with
Yeah.
that for sure.
Okay, cool. I'm glad we're kind of just chipping away. It's just nice to put stuff on the list and kind of work through it. What about you? Any suggestions?
I mean, this down here, and this might be selfish, but I'd put, like, Spider-Man and, like,
Mm,
Mass Effect and those kind of things. Like, I haven't played them. I don't have strong feelings
yeah,
towards them. Like, Spider-Man looks like it was a really good game, but, like, you put it at 23 on your list. Like, it's just sort of like another action game.
yes,
I don't know how much it really stands out, as opposed to, like, it seems like a good experience and really worthwhile, but I don't know if it's, like, something that really, like, sticks with you more so than a lot of, like, we have a lot of other action games that are gonna be near the top.
true. Okay. All right. I see that, and I agree that I don't think I'm gonna push it much higher. And if you're kind of debating between Mass Effect 2 and Spider-Man Miles Morales, I'm willing to maybe put Miles Morales down here because I'd like Mass Effect higher. I think we're approaching territory of a Souls game,
Uh-oh.
because like realistically, what are you hoping for? Are you hoping to get 3 games in the top 10?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm hoping for.
Oh my god. Wow.
Um, yeah, I could just that seems fair. I think I'm willing to put Dark Souls down here, but I think then you also have to put Mass Effect down here because that's the only game on your list that I actively, like, wouldn't wanna play.
Okay. I can
So
agree
if
with that.
you're
That's
putting,
fair.
like,
That's fair.
actively, like, I don't wanna play it, I actively don't wanna play, that's the only game on here that 0
Okay.
interest in me.
That's really unfortunate. It's so good. But I can respect that. Okay.
That's how I feel about,
I'm just going
like,
to
Dark
place them
Souls
on
game is,
here.
like,
Yeah.
is, like, I don't know, it's like a big brain, like,
Mhm.
it is so unique, and I understand the idea, like, all 3 Souls games, like, they're similar in a sense, but to me, like, having played through all of them, I get such a different experience from each one, but
Yeah.
again, it's like one of those things, like, you gotta just go in and you play them, and it depends what you're looking for too. Like, I know some people play them and they're like, "Oh, I didn't read any of the items, like, I have no idea what the story was about," but to me, it's, like, such an influential thing. Like, I read posts all the time on the Reddit about people who are like, Dark Souls really spoke to me. Like, I suffer with depression, and this game is all about kind of like the atmosphere and the tone, and like the subtext is all about like don't go hollow. Like, you keep
Mhm.
trying, keep putting your foot forward in there. Like, it really helped me. It gave me a different perspective. It changed my life, kind of thing. And like that is like an amazing thing to be able to say about a game. And
I think so
and
too.
so
And
I
I would
kind of
never take that away from the Souls community. Like, there's a reason these games are revered. They're awesome games.
think the way the game is written as well, kind of like
Yeah.
it's alluding, it has those things in mind. It kind of does have a message, something to say, which
Yeah.
is, maybe a little bit more than something. We put Slay the Spire at the very bottom. Like, that game's great, but
Exactly.
it doesn't really have like something to say.
Exactly. I'm with you there. So what I've proposed here, kind of while we're talking, we've got a list we're looking at. I've proposed a Dark Souls sandwich because you want Miles Morales down here as well. So how are you feeling about if we do something around like 16, 17, 18, Mass Effect 2, Dark Souls, Spider-Man, Miles Morales?
Mass Effect, Dark Souls, Spider-Man. Okay, let's put that in that grouping,
For
and
now.
then
For
we'll
now.
fine tune it. Sure.
Okay, sure. So maybe before we go ahead on getting higher, because we've done like the bottom 10 now, hypothetically, maybe the order will change a bit. Do you think we should maybe finalize the bottom 5 in a way?
Yeah. Okay.
Just
Sure.
because I think
Sure.
like there's no way that a game that we haven't already talked about between all of these is going to go to the bottom now. right?
Right. Okay. That
So
makes sense. Sure.
so I actually am
So a
feeling,
final
and I don't know if you're with me on this, that I actually might put Tactics Advance at 25 because I think that if we were to go back and play all of these, that it would seem a bit dated now, and it is the most nostalgic pick, at least on my list.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Okay.
feel like,
I
yeah,
I can agree to that. I think that's fine. But then I would say that I think Slay the Spire needs to go in that 24
yeah,
spot.
I agree. If we change what we have now and just do Tactics at the bottom, and then followed by Slay
And
the Spire
bump up.
24, Papers, Please 23, Apex 22, and then Hollow Knight 21.
I can get on board with that. I think that seems fair.
Okay.
So we've got the tentative, like we've got the bottom locked in. We've got the tentative like low mid. Because
Yeah,
if
16 to
we
20, right?
do it in groups of 5, right? There's the bottom 5, there's the low mid 5, there's the exact mid, there's top mid, and then the top 5. So we'll go to the exact middle of the pack
Yeah, right.
now,
11 to 15, right? Yeah.
11 to 15, and
Okay.
I'm gonna say that I think this is where like Pokemon and Portal slide in
Hmm.
because
What do you want higher, Portal or Banner Saga? Because
I
I personally, like, just to
personally
be frank, I like Portal will
Mhm,
get higher based on my willingness to raise it than Banner Saga.
okay.
But it depends, like, cuz it's your
I
choice
like
too.
your willingness to raise Portal. That interests me a lot. Banner Saga, I mean, I put Banner Saga as 4 on my actual list. I want
Mhm.
this.
Mhm. Okay.
I
So
would
that's
love
really
to
high up for
see it
you.
go up.
Okay.
Um, so, but I would personally put Portal below it, but if,
Okay.
depends, maybe they
How
both go in this category, I don't know.
what about Undertale?
Undertale to me, I think can go in this
Mhm.
category. I
Mhm.
think it's sort of weird and niche in a lot of ways. Um, but I just I can't get over, like, how creative and, like, how interesting the game took the idea of storytelling, and I think it was made by one guy, but it's become such a revolutionary game. Like, it did so many, like, weird and,
The pacifist run and
yeah, like, it's so neat, like, there's so much stuff that, like, you go into it just thinking, and I think sometimes the internet doesn't do a great job of, like,
it
really
doesn't.
explaining what
It
kind of
doesn't.
experience, like, it's a little bit, like, abrasive, some of the community aspects to it, but it's one of those things where you go in without expectations and, like, you just can't you're blown away, like, it starts out as just kind of like a funny, silly, goofy game, and you're laughing, you're like, "This is gonna be silly romp, whatever." But it goes
It's
so
really
much
heartfelt.
it's so heartfelt, it's so dark, it has so much to say. It, like, really kind of, like, challenges your idea of, like, like, what exactly do you get out of playing games? Like, why are you playing them? Like, and it kind of does a lot of the shorthand of, like, this is just what you do in video games, but it sort of asks you, like, "Well, why? Why do you do
Mhm.
that?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
how do you feel about these characters? Do you actually, like, connect with them?" And then it also is just, like, a hella fun game on top of that. Like, the actual, like, bullet time little, like, combat segments you do are so fun. Like, the
Yeah, I
soundtrack's amazing, like, it's such a marvelous and, like, impressive experience.
yeah, I'm with you. I really enjoyed Undertale also. I'm just trying to temperature check you on kind of this where you're at with your stuff, to be honest.
I
To Portal to me is one that was like, it was an honorable mention on my list, and Portal I think is something we forget about how amazing it was when it first came out, because there's been a lot of like Superliminal and all these other puzzle games that are kind of the more first person narrative, like Maquette we just were speaking of in the first section of the show. And but Portal, like, I think it's lost some of its ability to stand out because of those games, and I guess you could argue that it should be lower because of that. But then also on its own merit, Portal was really revolutionary when it first came out, with kind of the narrative that subverted what you thought the game was going to be, and how it wasn't really just a bunch of sequential puzzles, but it actually had this overarching story and some great characters despite not really having a lot of dialogue. And the kind of its environmental storytelling, I think, in Portal was very, very revolutionary. And that's not even talking about the physics and the puzzles with the portals, and kind of its platforming mixed with the puzzle elements of the game. Like, I think it's just almost perfect in the way that it was created.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree, like, there's not one aspect of Portal that doesn't work or, like, hinders it in some way, like, it's, like, simple, but it's so cohesive, and I think when we had that question of, you could go back and, like, replay a game for the first time, I think I put Portal as mine because it was just such a nice experience.
Hmm, hmm.
And then obviously, like, like puzzle solving really situates
Yeah,
well for that sense that
yeah,
like, well, if you
yeah,
know the puzzle, it's not going to be fun gameplay wise to go back and play it again.
yeah.
Um,
Man, this
yeah,
is so we've talked about a lot of games here, but like, I don't know where to
yeah.
put them. I want to throw one other game into the kind of ring of this sphere of ranking, if that's
Hmm.
cool with you, which would be Heavy Rain. Um, as much as I love Heavy Rain, and I mean, it was the first game I bought when I got my PS3. Um, it's something I always come back to, and I'll defend it because there's a lot of people on the internet that make fun of it and date it. And Quantic Dream, such a controversial studio in a lot of ways, but Heavy Rain to me is very special. But at the same time, I think that it is dated. Like the controls on it are really weird, like the way you have to walk around and hold R2, and I
Some of the
don't
side ones,
know how high we're gonna get it. You know?
I agree. Some of the side ones are kind of clunky. Like you watched me play that game. It was so much fun that
Yeah.
when we went together. But I remember there were a couple times like that it was like, oh, crawl through this like tunnel on the glass, and I'm like, I'm crawling, but
Oh,
he's
it's
like,
awesome. Yeah.
and like,
There's some awesome moments in that game for sure, and like the plot twists and the twists and turns and the way that your characters can die throughout your run if you make a bad choice. It's really really
yeah,
cool.
it felt really organic as you went through. But I agree. I think it was kind of like a one of the first games to really do that kind of like branching narrative, and it did a really good job of it. But we've sort of seen it done better
Hmm,
since.
hmm.
Or I think some of these games, like, they were kind of revolutionary in a similar way, but they haven't really been done in the same way, or, like, they still stand out a little bit more unique, whereas Heavy Rain's kind of, like, it has been overshadowed like
Yeah, or things like Until Dawn have come out, right? And Until Dawn is, I would say equivalent in, I mean, it's better quality. It's a lot newer, but equivalent quality in terms of like the story and the way the narrative branches. And they've learned a lot from that from Heavy Rain as a first try, I think.
yeah,
Whereas if you want to go back to Portal again, like Portal, I feel is still arguably the best of those type of first person puzzle games. So it kind of
yeah,
holds up a lot better.
I agree. So I think Heavy Rain goes in this category. I
Okay,
still think Pokemon, I mentioned that we kinda
yeah,
got sidetracked by Portal, but I think Pokemon goes in here in terms
I
of, like,
I agree with you. I
I
think
like Pokemon more as a franchise than I do any one particular game.
I agree. It's the same argument as we had for Phoenix Wright, and Heart
Mhm.
Gold to me is like the only reason I've maybe had it wanted it to be in this kind of range is because Heart Gold is so special in terms of like not only is it a remake of a game that we played literally as kids, so we do have the nostalgia for the original Gold and Silver, but it's a remake. It's just a bit newer, even though it's still. I mean, I guess it's an old game now on the DS, but just the way that the world has the two maps and you beat the Elite Four and you get to go across back to the Kanto map from the first game, and they just got everything right, like it's one of the games where your partner Pokemon follows you around, and for some reason that's a big deal that Pokemon fans care about. Like I care about it for some reason, even though it really doesn't change anything. But just like the scope of the game having the two maps, and it's still it's not one of those games as well where it's over encumbered by like having 700 different Pokemon and kind of like that choice paralysis. Like you have your familiar favorites from Gen 1, you got the cool Gen 2 editions, the legendaries are awesome, like they're I think it really is the height of the Pokemon series. But like you said, at the end of the day, it is just one representative of Pokemon. So I agree that
Mhm.
I think I'm comfortable putting it here.
I will give you Pokemon in this category, but I will just let you know that
Hmm.
if it were up to me, Pokemon would be at the very bottom of this
Okay,
list,
that's
and it
fair.
would
That's
make
fair.
it here more as, like, I feel obligated because of how much Pokemon was an
Yeah,
influential series to me,
that's fine.
but in terms of, like, actually this game, how does it hold up on its own, it would be at the bottom.
That's fine. That's fine.
So, I'm just saying it can go here, but, maybe this helps Banner Saga just scooch up a little
Maybe it
bit.
does. Okay. So we have Pokemon and Heavy Rain 14 and 15.
Mhm.
So after that, this is I'm really feeling the stress here now, Kate. I
Ah, God, I
Of
know,
what to
it's
pick.
so hard.
I really don't my preference here would easily be Banner Saga, but because that means so much to you, I think we're going to have to pick between Undertale and Portal here.
I think I would put my last 3 I would put in here would be Portal, Undertale, and Paper Mario.
I think I can actually agree with that.
Okay,
Exactly.
oh, good. You paused and I got so nervous.
Portal, Undertale, and Paper Mario, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Portal, Undertale, and Paper
See,
Mario.
I think I'm okay with that. I think we're kind of unified on these three. Like, even though Portal and Undertale were only on your list, I love both those games also. So it's
Mhm.
not like I'm making a sacrifice, I guess. Like,
And this
And
is like,
even
middle
Pokemon,
of
it's
the
not.
pack is
Yeah,
still
it's
amazing, right?
a
So
great position. Yeah, we're really getting like the games that make it above these are really like the cream of the crop. Like it
you
can
know
only.
what's funny is like putting this in, it feels like, oh man, I only got like Undertale to like this spot. Like, oh, it feels rough, but it's like,
Mhm.
holy shit, like that's like an incredible position. Like, it's one of those things like even 25 is amazing. And it's like to keep that context in mind of like
Yeah,
how much of an accolade it is to even just put something in 25 in the first place. So
I
I
agree
will,
completely. I think Portal I'm gonna put at the kind of the top end of this section. We'll
sure.
reorder them later, but I think Portal is kind of maybe our
Yeah,
mutual
Portal.
love out of these. Then I'll put
I
maybe I'll
think
put
so.
Paper Mario in the middle and Undertale below that. I don't know. There's a special spot
Sure.
for
And
Paper
then,
Mario in my heart, and I'm sure in
yes,
your heart also, despite
I
you not
agree.
putting
I
it on your
just,
list.
yeah, I love Paper Mario, and I think like there's still some stuff, but I went back and played them maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, or maybe not quite that long, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And while I really like them, I was like, oh, the pacing's kind of slow, and like the
Hmm.
dialogue is still funny, but it's not quite as funny as I remember it being.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like I still love it, and it's always gonna have a special place in my heart. But I feel like it's like I don't think I'll ever play it again, or maybe I'm gonna play it when I'm, like, 50 and really, like, wanting some nostalgia, and,
Yeah, I
like,
agree.
like, everything holds up, the battle system's still great, like, it's still a nice, good time, but it's like, it's like, it just
I know what you mean.
it
It's
it
an N64
it's a
game,
little
right? At
bit
the
more
end of
of,
the
like, a
day.
shallow experience than
Yeah.
some of the others, like, it's amazing at what it sets out to do, but it's like, it doesn't have a complex story that really, like, made me emotional and whatnot, like, it's great at what it does, but it's like, it has, like, 5 amazing elements, where, like, some of the other games have 7 amazing elements, and, like, seven's a bigger number than 5, so
I
that makes it
agree.
better.
Yeah, I agree. I think the where Paper Mario earns a lot of its brownie points these days, because obviously, yeah, mechanically and story wise and everything, it's been, I guess, surpassed by a lot of other games. But I think that it just has this unique, charming world that really
Mhm.
is its own
The
thing.
the
It's.
paper craft is fantastic, like, I wanted to s and I don't think the newest Paper Mario Origami King is a bad game. I think it's actually, like, kind of a neat game and almost more of, like, a puzzle
Mhm, it
solving
is,
game
yeah,
than, like,
totally.
an RPG, and I think it genuinely is fine. I don't dislike it. I mean, it's not good if you were hoping for the quintessential, like, old school Paper Mario experience, it's different. But I think, like, the art in that game is so nice, it's gorgeous, like, I love how creative they get with how you can, like, fold up the paper and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
environments, like, it's so neat, it's such a creative thing.
It's I think it really influenced Tearaway on PlayStation later on. Like it has a very similar paper kind of aesthetic, and you kind of fold paper into different shapes. And it's I was recently just checking a bit of that out when I was kind of fooling around on my with my PS Plus and just downloading a few random things. And it going back to Tearaway or playing Tearaway made me kind of have the Paper Mario feeling in a lot of ways. So yeah, it's cool, and it's cool to see like kind of that style recreated in a modern game, even though Tearaway is a lot different in terms of like what you're doing. But it
Mhm.
was just I guess
Yeah,
Paper
that's
Mario
kinda
like is
neat.
the origin of that kind of 2D
Well,
sort
like,
style. So
Nintendo as well kinda, like, went in a lot of weird, like, craft directions, like, with Yoshi's Woolly World and, like,
yeah,
Kirby yarn and whatnot, and it's like, they're like, "Okay, we did paper, like, what are their, like, weird household objects?" And, like, there's something weird and charming about it, so
agreed. So we have a couple different ways we could take care of this now. We got the top 10 left to kind of put in an order. We've put those games at the top, which are the top 5 that we think will probably make the top. And judging by what it looks like, I noticed that there is 2 red games at the top and 3 blue games, which means those are 3 we both picked. And none of
Mhm.
my individual picks are in the top 5.
Technically, I didn't put Persona 5 Royal.
You didn't put Royal on your list? Oh, my mistake then. Okay.
I put
That's
regular
fine.
5 because,
Oh, well, I mean, same thing though. Come on. It's like
yeah,
there's no way you wouldn't have Royal on your list after playing it
there's
if you play
no
both.
way.
But technically that's blue and like for all intents and purposes, right?
Yes, yes, it
So,
is.
so what are we gonna do about getting um one of my games up at the top?
I would, concede that maybe Last of Us can go up there,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and maybe either bump down. I'm not sure what will bump down, but
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think Last of Us is there. Last of Us is something that I would have put on my list, I
Yeah.
just haven't finished it
Yeah.
yet,
You know what?
and I
Why
think,
don't
like,
we?
because of the story, like, I need to see how it ends and, like,
Maybe let's make a list of just of these top 10 games that are left, and
yeah.
just kind of maybe go through those. So
Yeah, we'll slot those in because like those are the default 10 left. But let's go. I think we should do our 16 to 20 and
Finalize the
like
16 to 20. Okay,
finalize that.
let's do that. 16 to 20 right now. We have Mass Effect 2 at 16, Dark Souls at 17, 18 is Spider-Man Miles Morales, 19 Phoenix Wright, and 20 is Smash Bros. Ultimate. I'm prepared to bold Smash Bros. Ultimate right now at 20.
Yeah, yeah,
I think
I
that's
can go with
fair.
that. I would even bold Phoenix right too if you're
Yeah, I agree with that. I
confident
think.
at 19.
Now, I personally think the sandwich is a good way to do these games. I know you want Dark Souls at 16 probably.
I mean,
Um
I want Dark Souls at 5, so
I yeah, 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 I
I'll
know.
take 17. That would be my
That's true.
compromise.
That's true. Well, yeah, it's a compromise, but on your personal list, I mean, my games
Yeah.
are all at the bottom, yours are all at the top. Obviously, not realistic.
I mean,
I
so
think
far
that
we have actually made it even in every category
mhm,
so far.
it has been. We've done a really good job on this, and it doesn't have to
So,
be completely balanced, obviously.
mhm.
If you really want Dark Souls at 16, I'll move Mass Effect down. If only because I I mean, first of all, I haven't played Mass Effect 2 all the way through since my first playthrough. And I think that's the difference here is that you go back to Dark Souls multiple times. And they're different games though, right? Because Mass Effect 2 is like a multiple like tens of hours of RPG, whereas Dark Souls is
Mhm.
like much shorter, and I'm sure like you're good enough where you can get through it pretty quick, and Mass Effect's different in that way, but what Mass Effect does in terms of its like the branching story and the mixture of third person shooting combat mixed with the tactical like freeze time and give your teammates commands, similar to like a Dragon Age, obviously same studio. And I don't know what you feel about Dragon Age, but like same kind of mechanics there. And Mass Effect 2 is like unbelievably strong story wise, like the lore they build in that world and all the different races coming together and having their different places in the universe, and like this overarching council that's like trying to run the Citadel, and all the different races and their different not protected properly in terms of these Reapers coming to kill us, but why is the Citadel getting all this protection, and just all these different sub stories. And like you want to talk about reading all the lore in Dark Souls and knowing the story, like Mass Effect 2, you'd have to spend a year to read all the lore in there, and if you really wanted to get into it. So I'm willing
Yeah.
to concede it to Dark Souls just because I know your passion for the series, but I think I just want to say like Mass Effect 2 really is an incredible game, and I really hope that with the remastered trilogy coming out later this year that people get to experience it, right? Because it is an older game now, and I think that with a fresh coat of paint and like getting rebrought into the public consciousness as not being associated with like Mass Effect Andromeda, and going back to like the games that actually made the series something and made it one of the biggest franchises at the time it came out, is really going to be cool to see it kind of make that resurgence. I hope it does anyway, because it's really special, and I'm really excited to go back and play it. And I think that after I play the remaster, that I might actually be putting Mass Effect 2 a lot higher up my personal list.
Okay. And I think that I respect that a lot. And like I kind of, give Mass Effect a bit of flack here, but I genuinely think it's a great series. Like the amount of writing and the effort that went into world building, I think is really admirable. And I do think it is a really worthwhile series. I don't like the gunplay. I don't have fun playing it. Like when I played the first Mass Effect, the
Yeah,
part I enjoyed most was reading like the codex.
will say to you though, Kate, is Mass Effect 1 is not a good indicator of 2 and 3, because
Yeah.
they really revamped the control scheme and like the controls, especially on the Mako, and like
Oh
the way
god, the
the
Mako.
but like the way the combat felt and everything was really improved for 2
Mhm.
and 3. So it's not a good
Right.
litmus test to use one as like a small experience of one to judge the other two, but I know what you're
Right.
saying, and I do agree. Like
That's that's fair. The problem is you can't skip one because the story is so important, and to have it
yeah,
carry over, you can't not play one, but then it was just a slog I couldn't get through to make it to 2, which I've heard is the best one. So,
totally, yeah, no, totally, and I'm happy with the placement here. So we have 16 Dark Souls, 17 Mass Effect 2, 18 Spider-Man, 19 Phoenix Wright, and 20 Smash Bros. Ultimate, which leaves
awesome.
us now with the same predicament we were stuck with before, which is we have these 10 games left, and I don't think either of us wants any of these games not to be really
Really
kind of
high
top
up.
5 material. So this is the challenge we're going to have now. Um,
Why don't we both, if there's one on our list, let's say if there's either of these, because obviously, like some of them we have both, and I think any of these games like could be in our top couple picks, but are there any of these games that like you would feel comfortable conceding and saying like, it is one of my top picks, but it's the lower end of my top picks?
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is there's going to have to be some games we're comfortable conceding because of the numbers, but I
Yes, but
mean,
is there like, can we
yeah,
both volunteer one
I think
perhaps?
that's a good strategy. I would personally actually like to volunteer. Hmm. I'm just looking at the list, right? Because there's
I would like to volunteer.
three.
Maybe I
Hmm.
wouldn't.
The way that I see it is this way, Kate. So in the top 5, like I said, just counting the numbers here, and this is the argument I'm going to have to rely on now because we are running out of
Mhm.
ways to justify these great games over the other ones because they're all amazing. And my strongest argument right now is that I have no games that are only mine in the top 5. And I do agree that I probably like I've played more Tsushima than you, even though you love it. God of War 2018 we
Mhm.
both love, but I'm probably a bit hotter on that.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
same
Like,
with Persona 5. So even though they're shared
mhm.
games, they are more
They're shared
leaning
games, but
mine
they're
than
higher
yours.
on your list, right? Like Persona
Agreed.
5 and God of War are your top 1 and 2 games,
Yeah,
whereas for me, they're 5 and 14.
I agree. I agree.
So, like,
So
sure, they're shared
yeah,
games and I want them, but I feel like I'm conceding a little bit more having put them, and even
right.
Ghost of Tsushima wasn't one of my exact top picks. So sure, I've got two ones here that were me exclusive a little bit, but I feel like that kind of is it's weighed down a little bit by the fact that like, you're literally your top 2 games are also here.
This is true, but I have another counterpoint, which is that
Uh-oh.
the 3 of my games that are in the top 5 were in your top 25 games of all time. The
Right.
2 games that you have up there, Sekiro would be, as much as I know it's a good game, like I said before, like it's nowhere near something that I enjoy playing. Like it wouldn't even, I would put Solitaire on this list before Sekiro for myself. That's outrageous. I
The
wouldn't do
level
that.
of
I
salt
wouldn't do that.
coming through.
I wouldn't do that, but I would put like any game on my list miles ahead of this. And Divinity is something that like I could see myself really liking. I actually have an interest to
Mhm.
play it. Like I said on a previous episode, like I do plan to play it this year just to check it out, right? You have me interested. But that game also is not on my list. So while 3 of mine are shared, at least your 2 are
Right.
like they're not even on my radar. So I think that's a good argument for me also.
I agree with you. I think that makes sense. I'm just saying that I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
I get a
yeah.
little bit, if your top 2 games are up here, then
I
I
agree. I
feel like I
agree.
get a little bit of compensation
I
for that.
agree. I would like to propose though, just to get the
Mhm.
ball rolling here on the 6 to 10 kind of slot.
Yeah.
I think because you have the strength of 2 games that I care very little about at this time in the top 5,
Mhm.
I think that I should get to pick which of these remaining 5 games goes at 6 and which of them goes at 10.
Okay, say I consider accepting that. What would those games
so
be?
so I'll propose right now that
Okay.
The Last of Us is number 6.
Okay, I'm
And I think you'd
perfectly
be happy
content
with
with
that.
that because I think The Last of Us is phenomenal. I'm really enjoying it, but at this point, I've turned on a single generator, and I was promised many generators. So
Well, yeah,
I've
maybe you
gotta
should play a
I
bit more
gotta
of
wait
it.
and see if the game delivers on that promise.
Fair, fair, fair.
But so
Okay.
far, yeah, I really do like it.
Okay, so Last of
Um,
Us, I would do that. And I'm going to have to say that I need you to pick. Um, so here's where I'm at right now, right? So number 10. Number
mhm,
10, I like if I was ranking 6 to 10 out of these 5 games, The Last of Us, Banner Saga 2, Telltale's Walking Dead, Hades, and Bloodborne. My 6 to
mhm.
10 would be The Last of Us, Telltale's Walking Dead, Bloodborne, Hades, Banner Saga. So I know you're probably going to want Banner Saga a lot
Okay,
higher than that. But what do you
I
think?
will I'll agree to that, but I think we have to swap Bloodborne and Walking Dead.
The Last of Us, Bloodborne.
Last of Us, Bloodborne, Walking Dead, Hades, Banner Saga.
Hmm.
So it's what you proposed, just Bloodborne
Yeah,
instead of
yeah, yeah.
going Walking Dead, Bloodborne. It's
See,
just
now
it's a little flipperoo.
if you might remember, I did not really fight very much for the likes of Pokemon and Apex Legends. Apex Legends specifically,
Mhm.
maybe. Mass Effect. I mean, Mass Effect is a top 10 game for me. Apex Legends is probably at least 5, 6 spots higher. Though Telltale's The Walking Dead is the one I'm gonna have to defend a bit here. I still think that you have a really strong shout. You have Sekiro basically locked into the top 5,
Yeah, but
probably
it's not
higher than
gonna
5.
make it.
Higher than 5. You have Bloodborne. not only do you have two Souls
Okay.
games in the
You
top
love
10.
Bloodborne too.
I know, but like it's still more your pick. If you want to say Persona and those
Yeah.
and God of War is more mine, then Bloodborne is more of yours. And I also like you also have Hollow Knight lower down. I don't know exactly, yeah, but I really the Telltale The Walking Dead. Kate, let me break it down for you here. We've not
You know
talked
what
about
you
this
know what
yet.
the problem with Telltale: The Walking Dead is, and why it's hard for me to rank on this list,
Hmm.
and I was sort of hoping that you just slotted in somewhere for
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
is that I have never played it, and
Hmm.
I've intentionally known as little as possible about it because I know that it's, like, the kind of game that you have to go into blind and, like, make tough decisions, and so I can't possibly rank it because I've
Hmm. Hmm.
intentionally don't have any information on it aside from, like, I hear the story's phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It is. I like to. It's one of those games, right? It's dated now. It's you know, one of I think it might have been Telltale's first game actually. No, that's not right. They did Monkey Island and stuff, but it was their first like
their first, like,
modern
big
kind of
it's
game.
what kind of, like, got them on the map is, like,
Hmm. Hmm.
Telltale's a studio to look at.
They did, and this game like it's one of the first games I played when I got Steam. It is one of the first choose your own adventure style type of things. We were talking about Heavy Rain before, and as much as I love Heavy Rain, Telltale's The Walking Dead is my favorite one of these that I've ever played.
Mhm.
And the choices and the emotional impact, and for some reason, like a lot of those other games, they have a compelling story, but you don't really grow attached to the characters. Like in Heavy Rain, I wasn't attached to Ethan. I wasn't, or whatever his name is. I wasn't
Were you
attached to.
attached were you at least attached to Jason?
Yeah, see Jason. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I like that scene, but you know what I mean? Like there's not like a character you root behind. And in The
Yeah.
Last of Us, you really or not The Last of Us, damn. In Telltale's The Walking Dead, you really grow an emotional attachment to a lot of these characters in a way that these other games don't do it. And for that reason, you actually have an emotional stake in a lot of the choices in a way that you just don't in a lot of these other games. And
Mhm.
although it's dated control wise and like you know the quick time events aren't probably great anymore and everything, but the story and the characters that are developed, and like Clementine is one of my favorite characters in games period. And I don't even like The Walking Dead. Like the show is I don't really like the TV show. I've never read the comics. I'm not a Walking Dead fan, but
Mhm. It's just
despite the
such a
subject matter, the
quality
game was
game.
so quality. Like the story is so quality. The choices seem to have this this extra emotional impact. And the way that it ends, I will not spoil to you, but like the ending of the first season of The Walking Dead is maybe one of my favorite endings in any video game. And I really, 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 really needed high on this list.
I
Um,
respect that, and you know what's funny is I am so inspired by what you said, but your exact argument for that is how I feel about Banner Saga, because I am so invested in what happened to these characters, and, like, there's, like, the turn-based combat that I think is actually, like, probably one of my favorite turn-based combat systems in the Banner
mm,
Saga, but the by far the most compelling part of the game for me is, like, you are kind of like role playing as some of these characters, and what's interesting is based on the choices you pick you actually kind of like follow different main characters,
mhm,
but for me I went with Rook, who
yes.
is someone that I started out with the first game, and I made it through the whole series with Rook, like, trying to avoid spoilers, like, you don't have to follow Rook, like, Rook can die, you could follow someone else, you could pick someone else, like, there's a lot of player agency, but, like, I grew really attached to this one character, and he was so interesting because he wasn't, like, a leader, he's not a king, he's not an exceptionally important person, he was just kind of like the guy that sort of took charge when someone needed to step up and people looked up to him, and he kind of became this hero, but he struggles the entire time with why exactly it's his responsibility, and over the course of the game, like, characters close to him will die potentially, and, like, the weight of everything that you did in the first game is on his shoulders, and that's why specifically I picked 2 as well, because number 1 ends with, like, a really, big climactic scene, and
Mhm,
number 2, like, he really becomes, like, kind of a different person, like, he's got this responsibility to lead everyone, but at the same time, he's struggling so much internally, and, like, every decision you get to, it's like, you come across a fork in the road, and you have these 4 options. What do you do? And the 4 options are never things that, like, this is clearly the good choice. This is the evil choice. This is the risky choice, but, like, maybe you'll get something. It was 4 choices that, like, I totally understand why you'd pick all 4 of them, and, like, I don't know which one's gonna be the best one, but I would pick based off of like partially what I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
might be the best choice, and then partially also like what I thought Rook as a character would do. And I think it's really interesting that like the game had me look at it in that way, not just like as a player optimally what I think is best, but also like I understand Rook so well as a character. What do I think he would do in this situation? And like I just think that
Hmm.
that is such a special thing that a game is able to make you like empathize and relate to a character so much.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how you feel about Walking Dead, I feel about Banner Saga, but
Yeah,
then it's
yeah,
also got
yeah.
like, I really like the combat, I really like the art, like there's a few other things that added to it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And that's interesting because the Banner Saga, like I went with Rook also, and I've actually played some quite a lot of.
but
I
you
played the
you
first one
just
and
played the
played a lot of
first
two.
one, right?
I played some
Okay,
of
sounds
two, and
good.
then my save file got kind of corrupt, and it was one of those unfortunate situations where I
Mhm.
just didn't really feel like going back because it's like I know what's gonna happen now, you know.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Like Banner Saga, I have nothing really to say about. Like personally, like I said, the art style is not really for me, but that's such a minor gripe, and it is an amazing
Mhm.
game, and I love the way that you might think you're making an optimal choice, and really it ends up being like the worst thing you could have picked, but you have no way to know, and it just seems so organic in that way, and it does definitely has that extra scope in terms of having a battle system that Telltale doesn't really have. And
Mhm.
I would argue in some ways that's actually like I wouldn't want there to be combat or any other kind of gameplay in The Walking Dead because I think it's just the story is so strong and you spend so much time in conversation with the characters that I don't really want to be taken away from that in Telltale. So,
Yeah,
but I can see
exactly.
the
It's just
Banner
it's a
Saga like it's
different
built around having it, right? It's a different setup.
type of game, right? Like you
Yeah,
wouldn't wanna put like, we love puzzles, but you wouldn't wanna put a puzzle in like Hades, just stop and like,
exactly.
like figure out this like maze. Like it's just kind of it would be silly.
Exactly. This conversation has really impassioned me that I think we should actually have these two games. Um, I think they need to be ranked back to back, just
Okay.
based on our mutual passion for our individual one and the similarity in terms of like what the games are. In a lot of
Mhm.
ways, I think that we should do The Last of Us for sure. Still locked in number 6. I think that's a reasonable pick.
Okay.
Um, maybe not locked in for sure, but like I think right now because of all the reasons we said before, it's a good pick for 6.
Mhm.
How do we feel about Banner Saga, Telltale at 7, 8, and then Bloodborne and Hades as our more of our mutual
9 and
games,
10.
9 and 10?
Okay, sure. Sure, I can get on board with that.
Okay, so there's a couple ways we could do it then, and I'm free on this. Would you, if you want Banner Saga at 7, I'm happy to do that. But then I want Bloodborne at 10 and Hades at 9, or we could reverse it.
Um, I think I'm okay with having Banner Saga at 8.
Okay,
But I want that slight push for my top 5. I don't worry. Let's just slot it
okay,
in
okay,
as it is now.
okay.
Last of Us,
Sure.
Telltale, Banner,
Yeah.
and then Bloodborne and Hades. I'm pretty fine on whatever order Bloodborne and Hades go in.
Okay. So yeah,
And then
yeah.
I'll have a thing for 5, but I'll tell you it when the time is right.
Sure. I think what we should do next now is we should probably go back and just finalize 11 to 15 because those
Yeah, I
games
think
are
that's
not going to be changing too much and I
I'm
think we
gonna be
need to do
honest,
that.
looking at 11 and 15, I'm happy with how it is right now. Portal, Paper Mario, Undertale, Pokemon, Heavy Rain. I'm actually comfortable if it just stays like that.
Yeah, I think I am as well. I think that's exactly
Okay.
probably how I would personally rank
Okay.
those. I mean, I would probably move Undertale to the bottom, but I mean semantics, right? I love Undertale. I'm more than happy for it to be
Okay.
13 there.
Okay.
So I think we'll lock
Perfect.
those ones in, yeah.
Okay, so basically everything's locked in except for our top 5. And
Top
I'm
10,
gonna
top
suggest an
10.
order to you, and you can tell me how you feel about it. I
Okay.
think our top 5, and this is with me being a very wonderful, gracious, humble person.
Okay.
Um, I think from 5 up until 1, based on how I think we are collective about these games,
Okay.
Sekiro will be 5.
Okay.
Despite it being my number 1 game, I'm comfortable with it being 5 because I know it's not your
Yeah.
cup of tea.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
5 for Sekiro, 4 is Ghost of Tsushima, 3 is God of War, 2 is Divinity, and number 1 can stick with your number 1 pick of Persona 5 Royal.
Geez. So you want to do
I
Persona,
will
Divinity,
Yeah.
Persona, Divinity.
God
God
of
of War,
War.
Tsushima, Sekiro.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest compromise for our divided lists is that like we
Hmm.
have the top game is something that's high up for both of us. 2 is, like number 1 is your number 1 pick, number 2 is my number 2 pick, and then we've got the 2 games that we're
Yeah.
both quite heavy on, and then
Okay.
Sekiro goes to
Okay.
5 because it to balance out that it's not really.
I am shocked you're not trying to get Divinity to 1. What's there?
You know
Is
what?
it because you care for Persona that much as well?
I would 100% put Divinity at 1, but I just think that and maybe once you play Divinity, I think I could bump
True,
it
like there
there.
is that wrinkle, right?
Um, I've spoken about Divinity a lot on the show, like, I can't believe how cohesive the game is, like, it's so smart. Every single aspect of it, gameplay, story, world, characters, like, everything about it could carry the game on its own, and instead it's just like a cohesive system that all works with each other. I think like the multiplayer aspect of it really adds a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like it's just got so much personality, so much flavor. Uh, but you haven't really played it yet, so I don't think it's fair to put it at number 1 for our list
Right.
because it's not an us game. It's a me game, and hopefully you in the future. And I think
Well, I'm gonna
Persona
play
5
it. There's
Royal
no
is
doubt.
Persona 5 Royal is kind of funny for me because I haven't actually played it. I beat Persona 5.
Right.
But I haven't played Royal, but I'm
The thing is,
assuming that
it's
it
more like
will
a
be like.
director's cut, though, right? Like if you like Persona 5, I can't imagine a situation where someone who's a big Persona 5 fan plays the Royal and thinks it's worse. Like there's
Yeah,
just nothing
ex
worse about it.
exactly, like, I'm happy with it. What's funny is, I wouldn't consider myself a big JRPG fan.
Hmm.
Like, there's aspects of JRPGs I like, but, there's usually something that puts me off, like, there's an aspect, like, it's the grinding, it's the, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
really, like, cheesy story, it's the like, the combat system is
Yeah.
is not for me, or there's something, like, even,
The
like, some of the
stupid
character design.
sexualization of the
Yeah,
girl character and all that. Yeah,
exactly,
I'm
like,
so
the
with
sex
you
I
on a
just,
lot
like
of those.
there's so many
All of
things
those
that put me
actually.
off, so, like, it's kinda funny to have, like, a genre I don't really play too much of it at the
Yeah.
top, and I don't think Persona 5 is perfect. I think there were some I had some issues with it, and I think maybe that's something that Royal maybe some of those things are addressed in Royal, maybe some of them are not, but
Mhm.
I there's so many other things I love about it. It's so flashy. I like the system a lot. I really liked a lot of the characters. The environments were really neat, like, the music, oh my
The
god, like, I
music is
just
one of the greatest soundtracks, and yeah.
yeah, like, I really got pulled into it, and I think that because you like it so much,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think it goes there, and Divinity can be I can be comfortable with that being it too. And
Yeah,
then God
that's
of War and
fair.
Ghost of Tsushima, I think are both kind of, like, just really solid picks for us.
Hmm. Hmm. I was actually it's funny that you proposed this because I was ready to start arguing for God of War at number 1 because I figured it was maybe our greatest unified front. But
Mhm,
maybe I underestimate how much you like Persona also. Like there's no doubt that it's something that you really liked when you played it.
mhm. Well,
Um
I put Persona higher on my list than I did
yeah,
God of
yeah.
War.
I guess so. I guess so. I actually think that I am happy to just accept what you proposed. I really don't see another way I'd do it. Like Persona for me, like I wasn't necessarily expecting it to be at number 1 just because I mean we both have strong opinions about a lot of these games, but your proposal is to put my favorite game ever at number 1. I'm not going to argue with you on that. And Divinity, like as much as it wouldn't be obviously, like I said, higher on my list, given these 5 games and given that we're making a balanced list in terms of what we both are really aligned with, I don't think that I have any place to tell you that it can't go at number 2. After especially Royal being up there, and I'm more than happy for that, and especially since I also have interest in Divinity. And then
Mhm.
God of War, Tsushima, like yeah, I mean, obviously I want them higher than Sekiro, and I God of War I like more than Tsushima, so I really don't see a problem with this. God of War to me is one of those ones where it's like I think God of War is probably the best game that I've ever played
Really?
in terms of its okay. Let me back up. Like Persona, like you said, has issues, right? Like I agree, there's issues in Persona. There's some horribly scantily clad ladies that make no sense why they're showing their butt for in their pose, other than they're a girl in a tight suit, right? Or
Mhm.
whatever. And there's a lot. You could argue there's a lot of pacing and like some of the side conversations kind of get bog the story down, and it's a long game, right? It's hard to keep the consistent hype and pace throughout the whole thing, but I think, yeah, despite its flaws, like it's still great. But God of War to me is like the game that doesn't. I think we probably spoke about it a lot when we did the bracket challenge, but to me, God of War is
Mm-hmm.
like, it may not be like the best at a lot of things, but it is. I think it's the most polished thing I've ever probably played, and there's just no weakness to it. Like the only weakness I can think of to God of War, like you said before, is like some of the RPG stuff. Maybe it's not super necessary. I didn't have a problem with it, like just because we spoke about how we played it differently. Like if you're doing all the side quests at once, you're gonna get really strong, and then kind of bulldoze your way through the game. That wasn't my experience. I think that just the writing alone, like Mimir is such an amazing character in God of War.
Yes.
Like just his little stories on the boat, and the character development of Kratos, compared to like the mindless killing machine that he really was before, is amazing to see. And then lower down, like Tsushima might be the most beautiful environment I've ever been in a game. Like it's certain of
Mm-hmm.
those environments, like those, I don't understand how they made it so vibrant.
Yeah,
And
it is gorgeous, and I love the kind of like HUDless sort of like immersive world that you go in and you're guided by the wind and or a bird that flies by, and it's just like it's so natural of an environment, and I generally think like the sword play feels fantastic as well. Like
yeah, yeah. And then there's
I
also
think like
Legends.
yeah, and Legends is so good. Yeah, exactly. I put it on my list without even really considering Legends, but that's just such a nice bonus that didn't need to be there.
Totally agree. Yeah, you know what? I think this is it. I'm happy if you are. So, man, feels like that took a lot of effort. Good job.
Right? I know. I'm like, there's a couple things I'm like, "Oh, I wish that would have been higher, but I think overall, like this seems
It seems pretty fair.
pretty
Yeah,
good
yeah.
and pretty fair.
You want to give the recap?
Yeah, so we'll go from 25 up to our number 1. So in our 25 spot we put Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. And I think we'll just give that, well, it'd be fun to give these all like an accolade for something. So Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, like best class system. Good work.
We'll figure that
uh
out maybe another time.
Yeah, we got Slay the Spire at 24, which is the most addictive game on the list. Papers, Please, which is the most creative game, I think I'd say.
Maybe the most fun to say the title of.
Absolutely. The politest game on our list as well. 22 is Apex Legends. We'll say that's our best friend multiplayer game. We've got number 1 or no 21 Hollow Knight for the cutest bugs.
Agreed.
Uh 20 is Smash Bros Ultimate for the best long running franchise. 19 is Phoenix Wright Trials and Tribulations for the best courtroom breakdown scenes of all time. Uh, and the most delicious looking coffee.
Yes.
Number 18 for Spider-Man Miles Morales, because wow, this game really makes you feel like Spider-Man.
It makes you feel like Miles Morales, actually.
Yes, that's right. Number 17 is Mass Effect 2 for best improvement to the Mako driving design.
Yes.
Number 16 is Dark Souls. That it gets the Get Good award. Number 15 is Heavy Rain for its most interesting control scheme.
Oh, I thought you were gonna give it the Jason Award.
The Jason, yes. Number 14 is Pokemon Heart Gold, and that's going to be for the best your Pokemon actually follow you around this time award.
That's probably the weakest award so far, but I'll accept it.
Number 13 is Undertale for the most delicious spaghetti award, and you get to date a skeleton. Number 12 for Paper Mario. That'll be the best badge award.
Nice.
Best partner. Sushi's there. We like sushi.
Sushi, what a character.
Number 11 for Portal. I would say that's the best puzzle solving.
No, the award is a lie.
The award is a lie. I love it. That's so good. And now finally we're in the top 10 territory now. Bloodborne for because all good hunters must hunt. 9 is gonna be Hades for I don't know what Hades gets.
I
Hades
don't know either.
best. I don't know. I want to
The
say best
synergy is the
soundtrack, but
synergy award. It's for the
yeah,
greatest amount of synergies with abilities.
that's right. Synergy award. Number 8 is Telltale's The Walking Dead. I'm gonna let you award this one.
Ooh, who. This is the award for the difficult decision award. I'll
Okay,
leave it at that.
difficult decision award. Number 7, we've got the Banner Saga, and that's going to be for the best art design, clearly.
Clearly, yeah.
Clearly. Number 6, The Last of Us, best
The
generator
generator
mechanics.
award, obviously.
Yep, yep. Top 5, we finally made it, is Sekiro, and I'm gonna give this the best combat ever award. I love it. Um, Number 4 is Ghost of Tsushima. We're gonna say this is the best world award. If I could live in any one of these games, it would be Ghost of
Oh man,
Tsushima.
yeah, 100%.
Number 3, God of War
It's the
is
boy
the
award.
best boy award. Yeah, boy. Best boy. You know, it's a good thing we didn't put Red Dead on here because that would have been in contention for the boy award,
That's true. That's true.
but we
Thank
we
God.
we, side, we sidestepped that luckily. Divinity Original Sin 2 is going to get the best couples game. I think you play this with like
Mm-hmm.
a significant other, and it's just like the highlight of your relationship. So uh I saw that in. And then finally at number 1, we have Persona 5 Royal, the most stylish game of all time.
Nice. The you'll never see it coming award. That's what we call it.
You'll never see. You didn't. You put it at number 1 and you still didn't see it coming.
I honestly didn't. I'm surprised and I'm happy. And I you know what? This is a strong list, and I think that it would be hard. We'd be hard pressed to make a better one. I think, you know, given the criteria and the stuff we played, and you know, it was pretty friendly. I feel like we could have been a little bit more
We
pushy
should have
with
been
some
a
of our
little
picks.
harsher. Yeah.
So yeah, you know what? I think you did good. Like I honestly, Dark Souls at 16. Like I was coming into this and saying like, man, one of those games is gonna be bottom 5, and I'm gonna fight for that. You know, like I was really adamant, and it's just not the way it turned out. And you know what? I'm happy with that though, because really, where would I put it? You know, what would I
Yeah,
change?
it's really hard. As hard as it was to quantify games that, you know, you love yourself, it's hard to quantify games that it's like, well, I understand and respect why you love that, but it's not my pick. So like
Yeah,
this was a
yeah.
lot more civil than I foresaw. And I think with 16 being my Dark Souls, you know, it's not where I want it, but I'm comfortable at least conceding that if
Right, right.
you know, a few other picks go up a little higher. So
Exactly. Hey, well, this has been a lot of
mm,
fun. And if anyone else wants to submit their top 25 list of best games of all time to us, you can send that email again to circlesandsquarespod@gmail.com. Usually this is where we would answer a listener mail question, but you know what? This has been a really long episode, and we knew it was going to be long, so we did not prepare listener mail this week. But have no fear. We'll answer some more next episode on episode 26 in a couple weeks. I think that's March 22nd it'll be coming out, so look forward to seeing more then. In the meantime, if you would like to go over to our YouTube channel, you can find the link at our Twitter at CNSPod. We have a link tree there. Go to subscribe to our YouTube, okay? We're looking to get, we're on the grind to 100 subscribers to get that custom URL. Please help us out with that. And yeah, thank you for listening. It's been 25 great episodes, plus a few bonus shows, and we are looking forward to the next 25. So until then, we'll see you next time. The intro and outro music for Circles and Squares was produced by friend of the show, Matthew Chan. Interlude music is from Scott Gratton of the Free Music Archive. Our channel art was created by @unreasonable on Twitter, and our brother Alex is the designer of the Circles and Squares logo. Thank you all for listening and supporting the show.